but he's got $100,000 worth of guns. That's what's important to him. So don't miss that. He is straight up telling you, this is what I care about. It's not the wife. It's not the children. It's not my career. It's not the house. It's not the cars. I care about killing. Well, the first thing I will just flat tell you is the investigation does not stop at arrest. In reality, it's just getting started. So for me, I want the war room. I want everything up on the wall so that I can see it. For me, if I could have a room big enough, I would want every single internet search, date and time. I want every phone call from every cell phone, date and time. I want where the phone pinged. And then from there, I'm going to go out. Does he have any journals? Does he have any maps? Is he telling us anything? So once I get all his internet searches and once I get all his communication, then I'm going to overlay that. When did he meet people? So these text messages where he says, I'm going to meet you here and I'll pick you up, I'll bring you here, or wherever they're meeting, hotels, street corner, his office, wherever it is, then I want that overlay so that I can see he researches, he gets kind of, ready. He starts purchasing extra minutes on these burner phones. He's got his hunting ground set, and now he's made contact. He's fixing to strike. So you can see this pattern. Also on those walls, again, because I'm visual, if there's any void in time, why is there 6 months where I don't have really anything? And I don't think that's going to be the case here, but I'm just saying, because I think he is not only addicted to that torture porn, I think he is about that all the time. But I want to know when he bought a gun, when he went to South Carolina, when he went to Nevada, when did he go to Connecticut, when did he go to New Jersey? I want all that so that I can see it. Because again, now they're telling us there could be other pockets of victims, and maybe he was this strangler or this killer. You're going to be able to know that. You're going to be able to see that pattern so clearly that you're going to be able to tell the other detectives. I can tell you right now, her cell phone was missing. She was facing east. She was petite. She was a sex worker. She went missing on a Wednesday through Friday. Whatever it is, they're going to know. And it's going to be part of the overall, which I think is going to turn into a task force.
It sounds like Rex has, a ton of property that is still being hunted down. I mean, I literally have a bunch of people in my DMs like, where do you think his property is? Mac and I have been talking about it. Like, there's so many people. I don't think anybody has an answer where all the property is. I don't even know if law enforcement does. There's some crazy things going on with property with this guy, like all over the country.
This is an undertaking like nothing we've seen. And let me tell you why. There was no real time for Bundy. There was no real time for some of these folks because we didn't have the technology we have now. We got flock cameras. We've got cell phone pings. We've got 7 cell phones. We've got him researching specific, and this is critical to me, very specific pornography. So if you see anything that he watches, and it's going to translate to this scene, has he looked up anything about the head? Has he looked up why the burlap? He's researched it. And I'll give you another reason that the war room is so critical. You have one Pan-Asian male that's a victim who was wearing women's clothing. I want to know, because we already have the sheet. We know he researched twins. We know that to be a petite, effeminate male, right? Did he research that before or after he went missing? Before or after he was found? The other thing that's going to be critical, he was wearing women's clothing. Well, I got 2 questions. Whose clothing was it? Think about it. We don't know because all the other victims were nude. Did he make that person wear another victim's clothing? So we want to cross-check. What was everybody wearing the last time they were seen? Just saying. You want it on the wall. You want to be able to see it.
I think my dad would have adapted and become more like Rex of what we see now if my dad hadn't been caught. But we're seeing where he possibly moved clothing around or even removed them from a victim and then put them on another victim. And then my dad is well known publicly for taking victims' clothing and then wearing them post-murders and recreating crime scenes with Polaroids. My dad had this whole insane setup with Polaroids, like it's the most crazy thing. Like when Mac is talking about these guys, she said in a tweet, like they're full-time serial killers, like they're full-time porn bunnies. For like, this is gonna sound really inappropriate, but this is a good place to say it. Like, there wasn't any sort of porn out there that was enough for my father, so he recreated his own. Literally, he made like his own porn. That's the level of like insanity. Like, my dad carried note cards around in his pocket. He cut like pictures of just people out of like the JCPenney catalog, and he had them in his note cards, and he carried them in his compliance pocket up to the day he was arrested.
Well, I just thought when you were talking about that, Kerri, about how they make you prove that you're worthy to speak to them, basically. I know your dad did that just in before, when he was vetting his reporter for the Wichita Eagle, right? He was like, if you can't solve this code, you can't, talk about me, basically. So I can't imagine. I mean, I know I would, Mac, maybe you can speak to how you go into a room with this kind of person.
Respectfully. And let me be very clear why. Shannon, you have 3 children. If a teacher tries to tell you about one of them, you already know. You know the truth. So if that teacher is incorrect, if they're misseeing or misunderstanding a behavior, you are the expert. In this scenario, Rex is the leading authority, potentially, on the Long Island serial killer. He knows more than anybody else. He knows when it started. He knows the first pornographic magazine he bought or stole. He knows the first victim. He knows the first time he punked out and couldn't kill somebody. He knows when the rape fantasy started. He knows when he started at home making bindings and ways to capture somebody and keep them, whether it was stealing a handcuff from somebody or braiding different rope. He knows. So if you try to go in there and say, well, you're probably a psychosexual, blah, blah, he already knows what you don't know. So you're already at a disadvantage, and he has studied you. Part of what we know he researched was, what do the police know? It would not shock me at all if he went to bars and had conversations with off-duty cops. Hey, y'all any closer to catching that SOB? And cops, 6 or 7 beers into it, nah, man, they won't even give us enough money to set up trail cams or whatever it is. But the best analogy that I can give you, again, Shannon, is you. You're on a podcast right now, and I bet you at least once you have gone, oh man, back to school clothes, I got to get on that tomorrow. You can't stop yourself. You're listening for them. I know they didn't just break something when I'm on camera, right? You're aware. When you go to the grocery store, oh, I better get something for breakfast, and oh, they would love this, and I'm going to go ahead and get some ice cream. Whatever y'all are doing, you are constantly thinking about your children. You can't stop yourself. You're at a red light, you're thinking about them. I got to wash those clothes. I've got to get back in time. One of them doesn't really feel good. I want to check on them. I'm going to stop and get some Gatorade just in case. It is constant. That is Rex. If he's not driving around hunting, he's fantasizing about what he's going to do to somebody. He's watching porn on his phone. He's watching porn on his computer. He is driving off, sitting in his car, masturbating. This is what he does 24 hours a day. There ain't no part-time serial killer. But I'll tell you something else. If you want to know how dedicated, if Rex is the killer, he is. 279 guns, y'all, that's conservatively $100,000. That's how dedicated he is when he is fixed on something. He had to build a room for it that they're calling a vault. He had to pour enough cement that he could encase it and protect it and then lock it so nobody could get to it but him. And that's what I'm talking about. So if you watch anybody, and this is true for men mostly, but any man will show you what something means to him. His time and his money. That equals what he cares about. So if he's buying 14 cars and the child he's raising doesn't have a winter coat, there you go. If Rex is an architect and there's a 2x4 holding up the front of his house.
That's crazy.
Well, if I was in that war room, that's what I would be doing. I would have every wall dedicated to a different dumping ground. And then I would have all the key signatures and MOs and everything that I could connect. And again, let me just start with the 7 phones. This man could have had 1 cell phone, 3, 4. He selected 7. What I am most interested in is, do those 7 phones correspond with a state? So is 1 South Carolina, 1 New York, 1 New Jersey, 1 Rhode Island, 1 Massachusetts, 1 Nevada. So when that phone rings, he already knows where the sex worker's calling from. He doesn't have to waste time saying, hey, where are you at? He knows. That's who he's contacted. Are those 7 phones possibly trophies? How do we not know those aren't 7 victims where he just swapped out the SIM cards? Because again, people keep talking about burner phones, but then they said he was seen purchasing minutes.
Yep.
So I don't know. I mean, to me, that if you can buy minutes, that means that phone has internet capability. That's not a real burner phone, like a flip phone. He had 7. He selected that just like he did the victims, just like he did the dumping ground, just like he did the date and time that all of this happened. He chose the manner and the calls. He did that. So I would start with things like that. Every single thing matters to me. So like when people are saying, oh, those dolls in the house, that don't mean nothing. You don't know it don't mean nothing. I don't know it don't mean nothing. If it creeps everybody out that I know, I'm going to stay on it. And when I saw that doll encased in glass, it creeped me out. They had gloves on. They took it. So if I were that crime scene investigator, I would have taken it too. Are there trophies on that doll? Is there hair on that doll? Is there jewelry on that doll? Or was it used just as a creep factor? Like the art where the woman's beat up. Again, torture is what he is into. So everything matters to me until I can prove it don't matter. And when I get to a crime scene, if I don't know how it relates to it, I'm going to freaking take it. And then I get in a big room, and this is, I'm sure, what they're doing. I'm sure they've got a warehouse room, and all that stuff is laid out, and they are painstakingly going through every single thing, and then they're going to start to process. And then they're going to start to get some stuff back. And then they're going to say, wait a minute, we have this and this and this, and now we know how it correlates. Because I believe this man kept journals. He's an architect. I think he drew some things very mechanical. If you looked at where they dug, yes, they used ground penetrating radar and canines. I don't know that he didn't have a map somewhere.
But with Rex, I feel like he's just arrogant and just thought like that he would just. It's not that he was stupid about it. I just thought he just didn't. He was just above it. Like he was never gonna get. He did it for so long.
Never gonna get caught.
He was gonna never get caught, right? But with the Google, like, what are these idiots doing? Like, how do they not? It blows my mind. I guess
it's
that's
the ego. It's the
ego.
Narcissist, right, Mac? The psychopath, narcissist, pathological liar. Like, my dad's a sexual sadistic psychopath and narcissistic, pathological liar. Like, honestly, too, there's no one all the way home. They're not insane. They would never get the insanity defense, but there's like a disconnect there